Hi guys, welcome back to the D2 Talks. My name is Fabio Palvelli, and this week on the show I have the guys from Prompt Collective, a creative office based in Barcelona, Spain. The reason why I wanted to have Prompt Collective as one of the speakers for the D2 Talks, it's because of the way they do things. I particularly like their company culture, and also I'm curious to discover more about their cooking competitions. Anyway, I really hope you're going to enjoy this video. If you do, hit the like button, share it with your friends and colleagues, get the conversation going. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Hi guys, welcome to our channel. I'm so honored to have you on our show. Today we have Francesco and Ivan from Prompt Collective. How are you guys?
Good. Thank you for the amazing invitation from your side to be part of the interviews that you are doing.
I'm very happy to have you guys. As I was telling you before starting the recording, I'm a big fan of your work, but I'm an even bigger fan of the corporate culture that you guys have been able to install inside of your company. And I hope that we can touch a little bit on this topic later on during the interview.
Sure. It's an important thing for us, so it will definitely come out during the interview.
Should we start with the questions? You feel ready?
Yeah, sure.
Let's do this. Okay, so let me ask you how you got started, how you started gaining your expertise in the field of archivist, and also let's talk about all the other work that you guys are doing, because if you look at your portfolio, there isn't only archivist, there is a lot of other interesting stuff in it.
Sure. Well, I myself, I come from a different background than most of artists come from. I'm not an architect, and I didn't study specifically 3D nor animation. What I did study was filmmaking. So I started actually studying chemical engineering, but I just did that for enough time to realize that it was a lot of time that I had to invest in that, and if I wanted to do what I really wanted to do, which was filmmaking, it was better to start immediately. So I quit the university, and then I started studying. I did 4 years of filmmaking, specifically in the field of directing here in Barcelona. So that's my background, actually.
Well, in my case, I'm an architect. I studied my career in Mexico, and I was working in a lot of studios there, and when I came to Barcelona, we worked in a big studio called the 720 Arquitectos. Then I met a lot of my best friends and a lot of, for now, new clients also. And then everything is like it happens with the time. We start in the time of crisis here in Spain, but at the end was super nice for us because there is no how do I say space to have mistakes. We have only time to produce our images, our ideas, and spend time together working in a small project with some friends. And that's it. What's the beginning of that?
Yeah.
In our home.
To me, it's very curious. The reason why I want to know about your origins is because of the fact that you have such a varied offer for your clients. You know, you do architecture, you do design, you do filmmaking, you do architectural visualization. This is very interesting to me because usually companies that start in archivist, they start with a very specific focus. You guys manage to run a business that it's interdisciplinary in a way. So how did you manage to expand in this way?
I think there were two main things. One was the team that we were building, that from the very beginning, from its origin, Ivan, he's an architect. I come from a completely different world, which is filmmaking. And also the people that started joining the team, they also had different profiles. So the third person that started with us was graphic designer, then an industrial designer. So from the very beginning, we were 4 or 5 people with 5 different professions from different professional backgrounds. So it gave us the possibility to offer different types of services to our clients based on our expertise. If one project was of design, obviously there was one person leading the project, but we helped that person with our knowledge from different areas to improve the project. So I think that was very, very important. And the second thing, it's something that we will talk about later on, about the culture of the company, what you were so interested in. And I think it's very important to keep the interest on the work you do. So if you are always doing the same kind of project, at some point it will become routinary, become every day more or less the same. And that's something that it doesn't happen that often here in the studio, because we do get very different projects. Not all of them are in our website because we're not allowed to show most of them, or sometimes it's because we have been working, for example, 5 years on a medical book, on the illustrations of a medical book, but we still cannot publish it. But that's a huge amount of work. We have done something around 250 images, which were handmade and mixed with 3D models to represent a medical investigation. So that kind of stuff is what keeps you interested in the everyday work.
Yes, at the end we are every people who start here. We are from different cultures and countries. Then it's easy to find different ways of the solution of the design or of the resolution of an image. We are working always at for example, Sandra is one of the oldest girls that stay with us. They spent with this project maybe 7 years ago or 9 years ago, when even the name Prom Collective is not it's not ready.
Yeah, it wasn't even created back then.
Sorry to interrupt you. You mentioned it. Let's just jump right into it. Let's talk a little bit about your culture and how you guys have established this thing that you recognize it. If I come to your website or to your Facebook, if I'm looking at your page, I know that I'm looking at Prompt Collective. This is, this has to do just with branding, but this also takes over when it comes to the culture of your office, because I've talked to some of the people that have worked for you. So I kind of know what you guys are doing, but would you mind expanding a little bit and tell our listeners also?
Sure. I think in my personal case, and it was encouraged by also Ivan's point of view, we both work in big companies. I used to work for a multinational company before starting this company, and there were many things that I learned there, organization-wise, how to deal with some clients or how to deal with the economic part of the business. It was a very interesting work that I did there. But there were also a lot of things that I didn't like. So when we started the company, it was the possibility to do actually what you would have liked the other companies were. So it was at the core. It wasn't. The most important thing was to enjoy waking up every day and going to work, which is not only something related to the work you do, with the profession you do, but with who you do it with. So that's the most important thing, and it was at the core of what we were starting to learn at the beginning when building the company. We only knew that we wanted to work with specific people that we actually enjoy being with, independently of their technical capacities in 3ds Max or in Photoshop. We ended up many times hiring people because we knew that they could improve a lot this culture and to move it on. So it's something that we have kept doing since the very beginning.
Yeah, well, in my case, as I said, I work in a lot of studios, and I liked a lot of things and I hate a lot of things. Then we try to at least to protect or create a new way of thinking about the people who work here. Maybe it's not necessary that every people is an expert, super expert in Photoshop or 3D Max, as Francesco said. But maybe it's more important to get involved in the project, to stay calm, to produce, to have ideas, to learn new things, to talk each other, to listen the client or our ideas together.
I think now, retrospectively, looking back on the moment that when we started the company, was around 2011, 2012, Spain, the biggest crisis, architecture related in every industry, but architecture really was hit very hard back then. And I think what we did was a reaction to what was happening. Everyone was getting fired from their jobs after many years of working there in a very bad way, like in, not that you're in the other side, on the company side, then you could understand some decisions that were made by the companies. But the way they did them was something that it really shocked a lot of people back then. And for us, it was a reaction to that. Okay, let's start a company related to architecture in the worst scenario possible in Europe. And
why don't?
And let's take advantage, or let's do it in a different way. Let's avoid what's happening. Let's try to do it differently and demonstrate that it could be done. This is all applicable also for a certain amount of people working in a studio. If you are wishing to have a huge studio, plus more than 100 people, more than 50 people, there are many things that change. And we have learned that because we have grown, not that much, but enough to understand that we would have changed, or we would have needed to change many other things that we were not that willing to lose in regards to this culture. So we are starting to understand this right now. We're at this point where we know that the culture that we want to promote, it's still limited to a certain amount of people if you want to be involved as we want to. So we're at this point where we are really thinking closely about the amount of people that we have to keep it working the way we like.
No, at the end we spend a lot of hours here. You have to stay, I don't know, comfortable and calm and happy, because if not, imagine the client has a lot of problems. We have the I don't know, the deadline are so tight up every time. Then everybody's so super nervous about the projects, about the competition. Then if you have bad time to spend 8 or 9 hours per day, imagine what's super difficult. Our first plan is to get together, to be friends, to listen some music, to talk a lot, to eat together every day. Then it helps us a lot to solve some problems.
One method that actually helped a lot to build this feeling of culture, as you mentioned previously, was food. By one reason or the other, all the people that work with us, we have always shared this kind of passion. And from the very beginning, it all started because we were 3 people in a small flat in the center of Barcelona, and someone said, okay, I will cook today for you guys. Okay, and then the other person said, okay, I will wash the dishes. Okay, I'll cook tomorrow, said the third person. And it all started like that, like a list of 3 people that one day one cooked, the other one washed the dishes, and then on the next day there was someone else cooking. And we managed to keep this system while being, even at some point last year we were 15 in the studio, and every person had to cook every day. Well, it's optional, it's not mandatory, but it happened that everyone liked this system because it's a very cheap system and you eat very healthy every day. So one day you cook for 10 people, but you forget about cooking for the next 10 days. So you cook once for 10, but you don't have to think about cooking on the next day. You don't have to think about Tupperwares at your house. So, and you know that you will eat healthier than.
And it's a good moment to know each other, to talk each other about the weekend, about the things.
You also have awards, right? That people win for the best food or something. I think I've seen something like that.
Yes, it became so famous that we had to do like a proper award with prizes and everything, and we have been doing this for 3-4 years, the award thing. And the nice thing that we are doing is that every meal, this is just the last meals of the year, so the last 2 weeks of December before the Christmas holidays, each one of us has to cook, and then it's in a secret Excel sheet. You have to vote with different points on different like sections. And every day we also invite someone else from the art-based industry here in Barcelona. So thanks to this, we have got to know a lot of people in the industry. They all know, and they all wish to be invited next year to the cooking competition. So it has been something very helpful to build this culture that you were mentioning before.
I love that. I really love that. Was this inspired by some stories that you might have heard from the outside? Was this your idea? What I'm trying to understand is, do you get influenced by certain specific people for the things that you do, or is it something that you just like to experiment and play with and see whatever works?
Was a joke at the beginning. This competition was a joke because I don't know in what year, 5 years ago, no? More, yeah. Maybe. Francesco cooked a super big pepper like this. I don't know, maybe 1 kilogram of pepper. And he filled of rice? No, made of rice. So
the actual story was that I went to the market and I saw these huge hydroponic peppers, red peppers, and I said, "Wow, that's an incredible plate to fill it with rice and meat or something like that." But there's Sandra who's vegetarian, so I said, "Okay, let's do it rice and cheese." So I did for each one of us this huge pepper, which was insanely big, that could not be eaten by anyone. So it was like the worst dish of that year, and somehow the worst dish of that year became the name of the trophy. It's called the Pimiento de Oro, which is the golden pepper.
Yes.
So that's the story behind the awards. And it goes started as a joke, but funny that you asked if we were inspired by someone. It actually came out like this, but then we realized that people that we really admire, for example, Elias and Olaf Relson, they also do something very similar in their studio.
With a super book, with super design. It was amazing for us,
So when we knew that some studios such as them that we really admire were doing something similar, it was inspiring somehow. And then we got to know that they published a book of what they cook, so it inspired us also to make a book every year, a small booklet with all the recipes and all the persons that we invite. So yes, sure, we have found inspiration.
At the beginning, it was not a goal, but now it's super thing that motivates us to invite people, to meet more architects, to meet more, in our industry also.
Yeah.
For example, this place that we are now, the studio
yes.
was because we invited to Diego Querol, that is super amazing artist.
Dieguito Chiquitito.
Yeah.
Dieguito Chiquitito. I know the guy.
Yeah, exactly. Who do know that guy? No? He said that near to my studio there is some places for rent. Maybe you have to look around to see. And the next day we stayed here and we met.
He gave us the contact of the owners of the building, and we were eating with Diego at our older studio back then. And on the next day we were basically almost signing a contract to renovate a space next to Diego's office. So it was all due thanks to this tradition.
That's
So yes,
amazing.
it also
Or for a bad paper.
yeah, came from a hydroponic gigantic pepper.
Let me now go a little bit away from this topic, and let me ask you about productivity. Are there any systems that you guys have in-house for productivity? I give you an example. One thing that I do, I have all my notes written on Evernote, or sometimes, when I'm mobile or I need to take notes, I do it on a little thing like this. And I like to tick them off as I proceed. This makes me, want to do more and more, even if I have some downtime. Do you guys do anything to keep yourself productive? How do you manage to be so prolific in making your work?
Well, we work a lot with Google Drive, for example. We make for a project some list, most for the video project. Make a list and the specification of the frames, of the status of the camera, of the status of the rendering also, and the owner or of these sequences, for example, and make a bigger list you could share with everyone in the team, or even with the client also. Sometimes it depends the client.
It's a very straightforward Google sheet where we have all the names of the sequences, and it has like 3 different colors. Red meaning that there's still a lot to be done. Something like orange when it's rendering or in the queue, and green when all the post-production and exportation has been done of the video. And this can be shared within the team. So that's a tool that we use a lot for animation. I personally use a lot, as you do, Evernote. We do a general meeting every Monday in the morning. So if not Monday morning, latest Sunday, whenever I have some time, I do all the lists of things that I want to discuss in the meeting. So Evernote, it's very useful in that sense. I use it very similar to the way you do. And there's also another ritual whenever I get kind of stressed in the job because I receive a bad email or something that it's not working properly. We have a lot of plants here in the studio, so I just stand up and go and water all the plants carefully, one by one. I think about the email that I'm going to answer, and then when I'm very calm, all my plants have been watered correctly, then I go back to my seat and then I answer the email. But it's a very helpful method to relax and to avoid inconvenience in the future.
I love that. Even it feels like you wanted to add something.
Yeah, well, this is a pet-friendly studio. Then you can bring your own, I don't know, for example, my dog, that is Lola, is one of the team also. I want to, for sure, in some years, maybe she knows how to manage from 3D Max or Photoshop.
I'm trying to teach my dog how to do the accounting because I hate it.
That's a great trick.
Yeah.
If you manage to do it.
Only to push the F9 button like.
Guys, to date, what do you wish that you had known when you first started out?
I think one thing that I would have always wanted to know from the beginning, now retrospectively, is dealing with clients. I think that's something that I've come to learn during the years, is that it's much better to have a direct and good relationship with the client than starting to impose over what he says, or because if you try to impose something on a client, he will do the same, and he's the one who's paying. So you end up in a non-dialogue that won't ever work. And it actually took me a lot of years and a lot of uncomfortable situations to learn that there's always a way to dialogue with a client. And the more you talk and the more you understand what he's looking for, the better his answers are going to be. And it's also true that, and I've come to learn also that there are some clients that do not want that. They just want to impose. So it's up to you to decide if you want to work with those clients. What I've come to realize is that I like to work with clients that actually respect a dialogue. They hire you because they can ask you a question and you can answer. So if we had known this initially, probably the array of clients that we would have now might be kind of different. So we learned this halfway through the 9 years that we have had the company. And in the last 4 years, we have built this relationship with long-term clients, and they have become our best clients. And they come here to visit. They don't live here in Barcelona, but they come here and they eat with us. They eat with the team, or we go out. They come here and they know that they have a space to work. For example, we have a great client that he's always traveling. He has an office in Miami, and he's always traveling. He likes a lot to come here to Barcelona because of work and pleasure. So every time he comes, he knows he has an office here. So that kind of relationship with a client, it's something that we are willing to generate with all our clients. Even they don't have to be a big amount of clients, but if you have small amounts of clients that you have this great relationship, then it's much more enjoyable, the work.
Sorry to break it to you, but I think your client is just trying to win the Pimiento d'Oro.
That's problem. He has never been able to come for the Pimiento de Oro, but every year he said to me, this year I'm going to reserve 1 week in December to try all the dishes. No, it cannot be. There's only one person invited every day. No, but if I come, I'm going to try all the dishes and I'm going to cook for you also. Okay.
No, we learn a lot, listen, for example, or understand the client. Even when you understand the client or the project, understand the way that you have to manage your own team. Because sometimes everybody in a big competition are confused or are doubting about everything each moment. But if you don't have the calm to process all this information, maybe you have a lot of mistakes on the process of the making the animation, for example. That is super difficult. Maybe you have to understand to stay calm and look around, like what is the problem, what can it solve of this way, but sometimes only talking with the client, it's enough to solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Only listen, like a
shrink,
or like a friend, like tell me about the problem, and he maybe speak a lot, and try and doubt in this same call, and after he solve her or his own project in the same time on the call. Then it's I think it's the most important thing is listen the client or or the project, no?
Yeah, as you were saying, the colleagues, the work colleagues, it's something that it applies exactly the same. It's a learned lesson that if you try to impose something, because you're the boss of someone else's, but if you try to impose something, that person will react in their own means. They will react by imposing themselves in a different field. So it only leads to a non-dialogue, to an interruption of a dialogue where everyone is going to pull the string to their side, and that usually doesn't make things better nor enjoyable. The time the 8 hours we spend every day together working. So that's a good lesson that we have learned with the years.
A friend of mine from Luxigon once told me, doing this job is 10% skills and 90% psychology. And so sometimes you just have to sit down, listen to your client, and the client will say things that, they have to say them, and then you will go on and do your work like, you listen to the client and then you just do the work and the problem is solved. There was never a problem, it's just that the client wants to be heard.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there anything you guys have failed at, which actually turned out to be a great learning lesson or a changing point for your career, for your development?
In my own case, well, it's company related, obviously. We once tried to to start working with 3D printing machines. So I did a course, and in this course we built the machine from scratch, and then we started printing a lot of things, and none of those things worked because they were printed horribly, and I got very frustrated because I built the machine. I couldn't blame no one else. It was the machine and I built it, so it's my fault. And I'm very stubborn with these kind of things. With technology, I'm very stubborn with it. So I took the machine, it wasn't not even in the studio anymore. I took it home, and during one summer, instead of going to the beach here in Barcelona, the whole summer I spent with this machine, building and unbuilding the machine. I didn't have a kitchen because the kitchen was full of the 3D printing machine. I spent 3 months testing the machine, testing. It never worked. Every time that I left something printing, I came back after 3 hours and all my kitchen was full of plastic. So I was like, it can't be. There must be something wrong. I talked to the people from the machine and they said, yes, actually, that batch of machines are not working very well. So the lesson that I learned is that I can be very stubborn, but machines sometimes fail. Most of the time it's people that fails, but machines fail. And in our work, in the job that we do, that it's a lot technology driven, it's good to understand that they can fail. And by understanding that, it will make you planify in a much better way. For example, animation, you have to be very careful with timing because it's not one render, it's 25 renders per every second. So a small mistake, not clicking a box and this is a human mistake, but machines also can fail. So if you are trusting that all your render farm will work 100%, and you don't have any space for an error, something will probably fail and you won't have that space. So that's a good lesson that I learned thanks to the 3D printing machine. We returned the machine and they gave us the money back. So actually the company accepted that it was their fault back then.
For me, my case, growing too fast. The team, 2 years ago, more or less, the team duplicated the size on people and was awful at the beginning because you cannot manage the same kind of projects or the same type of projects. You need more time to talk with the people, to talk with your team, to talk with the client, to manage all the emails. Then it was super complex thing. Maybe now we are not 14 people. We were 14 people
last summer.
And it was super difficult. No? Now it's time to think about all the people that we need here. Each kind of different proposal for these people. I don't know. We have to take time to think about the team. Most than growing so fast and that's it and produce a lot of images is not a good way to produce it. No?
Yeah, I think it was a conflict between knowing how you want to do things and letting you go with the flow. More clients, more work, more people to work, and that's it. So, and that's what we were discussing initially. There is a point where you have to decide how you want to do things, and if you want to keep them the way they have been so far, and that's the most important thing for you, then there is a limit on the number of people that you can keep that system. It's not bad or wrong, but you have to be very clear what you want or how you want it to be. And based on that, then do it. In our case, we learn a lot by not back then, not paying attention on this, on not stopping 1 second and saying, no, is this the way I want to do it? I want to run a business with more than 25 people and where I'm not producing, but I'm always just answering emails, basically. So yeah, we had to stop at some point and realize that it wasn't even probably because we didn't have the expertise to make it, nor we were 100% willing to do it that way.
No, not only that thing. For example, in my case, I love drawing a lot. I love to produce. Always we work in competition teams. Then my necessity is make a drawing, make a Photoshop, make even modeling also. Then I don't like too much or spend the 80% of my time manage calendar or emails. Or I love to produce. I love to make an image.
Also, another case, another situation that was a mistake that brought a very interesting lesson was since I come, as I mentioned previously, I come from the filmmaking industry, so at some point we were we're doing a lot of art bits, but it would be nice to start producing also documentaries or film to direct or participate. So I was always in between. I was still working with some film projects. This was 6 years ago. We won some prizes with one of the projects, and then one at some point we had the possibility to be producers of a full-length documentary. It was in south of Italy, in Naples, but in the surroundings of Naples. It was a quite interesting project, but it had a lot of personal implication in the project because I had to spend there every month, 1 or 2 weeks every month. So I was traveling a lot back then, and I had to live there in a reality that it's not my reality. So I had to be there, and it lasted almost a year while we were filming. And since we were doing this with a co-production with a friend of mine, we never agreed on the right terms from the beginning. So at some point we were investing a lot of time and money, obviously, on the project, but we didn't have the right to give our opinion on how it should be edited, the film, or what would be the next step for the film. So at the end it didn't work out because of this, because we didn't agree on the terms from the beginning. So that was a very good lesson that we learned back then, because we had to spend almost a year in this project to realize that since we didn't agree on the right terms from the beginning, we were not going to make the project as we wanted to make it. So we had to stop the project back then, or at least our part of the production, and learn this lesson for our next time. So now that we are planning to move on with film production or documentaries, we would probably do it in a completely different manner.
Okay, then let me ask you a question, because we're talking about agreeing and disagreeing, and also we connect to the previous thing that we were talking about, as in trying to make the client happy and have a good communication with them. Sometimes there is the need for saying no to clients, even to people that work for us, and in many cases no can be very powerful, but there is sort of a negative connotation to it, so a lot of artists struggle to use it. Can you please tell me if this is a tool that you use yourself, if there is a way that you tell your clients, look, we cannot do this kind of stuff? How do you guide the conversation?
Well, only I thought in these years, only 3 or 4 projects we had to say no, but completely no, absolutely. Because in Spain there is a phrase that it means surfing a wave, that you can manage all the problems, only understand the client. but sometimes the time or the deadline is too short. Then they cannot understand that, for example, for a video, you need a lot of time to make this render. Then you have to explain a lot of times, but not once, maybe 10 times in the same conversation. You have to, or you need a lot of time to produce this video. And it's quite complex when the client don't want to listen to you. And then there is I can't remember the name of this project, but was for a big office here in Barcelona with the I thought was a tower for 20 floors, plenty of offices and things and garden and a lot of things, and they wanted to make the video in 4 days. We thought no, it's not possible because if you want to pay a render fund, maybe it will be super expensive for you. This project needs 4 weeks or 3 weeks, and they no, I only have 1 week more. And then we talked with her, and we said okay, let's make a small video for you because you need it. But you have to think that it's not the same quality of the other videos that we had in our webpage. Then we started the project, and the second day that we produced a lot of images, we spent a lot of hours, even in nighttime. The chief or I don't know who, get crazy and said no, this is not correct. This is you don't have the quality. We need the video right now because what are you doing? You're not professional. And she, I don't know, give me a lot of words in the telephone. I don't want to remember. And only I said sorry, we want to help you to produce this video in this short time, but it's not possible. I have to say no. I don't want to work with you anymore. Sorry, but she said, no, it's not professional. It's not blah, 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 blah. And that's it. Was our negotiation. No, yeah. You remember?
Yeah.
We spent 2 days full. 3 people, or I don't know, only 2 people, 3 people. This is not the case because for sure the quality of the video at the end
it's not going to be what
you expect. Exactly. Then we have another big problem with that.
In terms of saying no, I think there's always, it's quite important always to be able to have the confidence to say no. But I've also learned that saying no, 3 points, but it's even stronger because you're offering a solution. You are saying no to something, but it's not staying only there, but you are offering, and it happens a lot, going back to animation. It looks like it's a lost war every time that you start an animation project because you explain it 2,000 times the time it takes to render and everything, and then can we make this change? Well, no, it has been exported, rendered, so no, but. So no, we cannot change this, but we could change this part, or we can make another shot, not in video, but with 3 still images that they are in a sequence, and we can do that within 3 hours. Would that help? Yes, that's amazing. So a no, it's important, and if it comes with a but, you are offering a solution for a problem. So I think it's a combination of both, which gives you a lot of strength also, and it makes better this relationship that we were saying before, that it's very important to have with the client. So a no, but.
So let me tell you something funny. Basically, we're now recording these interviews and we're going to publish them in a couple of weeks from now. And we have already done a few. And every time that I talk to the artists or to the business owners that I interview, at these questions, they all give me the same answer. No, but. And it's like, you see, this is really the reason why it is important to work with world-leading offices, because there are certain standards that can be repeated in order to achieve higher level outputs, if that makes any sense. And so, I'm very thankful that we're doing these things and that you guys are taking the time, because I think that what you're sharing here, it's going to be very important for the development of other professionals that want to do it, but they have no idea. And maybe they look at you guys and they say, God knows how they do it, So sorry for interrupting you. I just wanted to say thank you.
Excellent.
Guys, are there any books that have influenced you, not only from the business or artistic side, even on personal development, that you might feel like you want to recommend to others because, they have helped you somehow?
I do have a book that I'm not religious, but it's my kind of Bible, not only because of its content, but also because it's huge. It's a huge book that resembles a Bible. It's Gödel, Escher, Bach. It's a book written by, he's a physician, Douglas Hofstadter, from 1979, I think and it's an extremely interesting book because it takes the ideas of initially very different people, like Gödel, who's a logician, Escher, who's an artist, a painter artist, lithographist actually, and Bach, who's a composer. So what do they have in common? And it's amazing what they do have in common. Structures, how mathematical structure or a logic structure can be translated into an artistic painting, and how Bach composition share the same pattern. So I've always been very interested in how two different worlds like physics and metaphysics actually used to be part of the same book. Physics show you something, and metaphysics were the insights of the tests that were done. And this book actually, it's very helpful to understand this in a huge, broader way of thinking and seeing things. So it's a very interesting book.
Well, for me, maybe 3 books I want to talk. The first one is Ai Weiweiism. That is Ai Weiwei, the artist, wrote only the ideas that happen in their mind when some, I don't know, maybe see, or maybe they visit a city or making some project. And it's plenty of new ideas to approach project. And you can read as you want. It's not a novel, for example.
Okay.
The second, it calls El Elogio de la Sombra. That is from Tanizaki. That's a Japanese story of the light. He related the lighting between, it's a comparison, the lighting between Europe and Japan. Because in Europe, for example, everything is bright, everything is white, clear, and I don't know, this kind of material. For example, they talk about the glass and the concrete. But they compare with their own culture, Japanese culture, that takes a lot of time to put attention in the details, like the shadows, like the old material, like this kind of wood, old wood for the trees, for example. And for us, that we try to produce, I don't know, maybe images or new images, it's super important to get put attention in this kind of details, on the shadow, on the light. Not only the European kind of things. We are from Mexico. Well, I am from Mexico. And it's different, completely different. The kind to present an image, but there is a lot of ways to think about the project. So.
I also wanted to add, I remember of a book that it's amazing for the work we do, filmmakers and animation, or even for still images. It works a lot. It's it's a set of phrases that a film director called Robert Bresson did, and it's called Notes on the Cinematographer. That's the name of the book. So it's just short.
Yeah, I think I know this book. Wait, I'm making a note because I'm gonna look it up.
And it's amazing. He's a machine of giving in very short sentence such a bright insight of the image. So, for example, he says every object that appears in a scene has to have the intention of wanting to be there. So it's not that you just put it there. No, it has to want to be there. So it interprets the objects as a person that actually is there. So when you see it, it's completely comfortable and normal that that object is there, and it's not put. It was not put there. So that the book is full of phrases like this that they're very short, but they have such a bright insight that it really shocks you. So it's a very recommendable book for our profession.
Beautiful.
There is another small book that calls Atmospheres that was written for Peter Zumthor, and they talk about the specific light entering on the building, and the buildings are reflect to the materials, or the feeling about you enter on on a hall, or on some place, on some church. I thought to our job is more important that see rendering or even photography books. Maybe it's to understand stories, like for example Italo Calvino write another amazing book, no?
Invisible Cities.
Yeah, exactly. Let's imagine this kind of scenario, no?
I really like the approach of Peter Zumthor to architecture. I think it's a very humane approach that the elite of architecture has tried to hide for many years. You know, we are trying to make a discussion about architecture that is a lot more intellectual than it should be sometimes. You know, Peter Zumthor talks about the first impression when you open the door and you touch the handle. What is that?
Yeah.
That's humanitarian, you know? This is like, we're making buildings for humans. We're not making buildings for other architects. And so this is one of the things that I like about architectural visualization when it's done properly. It's directed to the right people that are going to read the images. And so it's a lot more powerful when it's done like this, because it's like me trying to speak English to somebody from, I don't know, Chile that doesn't speak English, you know? It's not the right method of communication. And I don't know, sometimes I think that, you know, people like you, the work that you do, I think that this is the reason why it's so powerful, because you can read the intention in the images. And I see a lot of like artists that might be very good from a skill set point of view, but then the intention is not there, and so the images have no soul. Anyway, I just made a little...
I think Zumthor would have been a great film director.
I agree.
One of the few architects with ears. What he designs always, it's been thought of how it will sound more than, and not only how it will look. So it's a very complete way of conceiving architecture the way Zumthor does.
Let me ask you, let's move a little bit away from this. Let's talk about the community. The reason why we're having this conversation, it's because we met once at the D2. So, you know, because of the community, I got the chance to get to know you guys. Do you think there are areas in our community that should that could be improved in order to preserve the prestige of our profession?
Well, we're working in a community now here in Barcelona. For sure, you heard about that.
AVA, Architecture Visualization Association.
It helped us to organize and to meet all the studios here in Barcelona and share problems, clients, works, and different kind of and friendship also. But right now it's we are working on the new proposal for AVA for this year, and for sure you have to we will send you some.
You will hear about it.
Exactly,
It's coming back.
I look forward to that.
Yeah, new fashion. No, but we have come to realize we started doing the ABBA as a group of friends, not friends because we weren't friends back then, but people in the same industry. And then you start seeing that there's a lot of people that understand what render means, and they also understand the issues that you have when a client doesn't pay, or how advance payment can be very bad seen from the clients when it shouldn't. And then you start realizing there's a lot of people with the same issues that you have, and by talking with one and the others, you can find a lot of solutions, because I found this solution, and then you share it, and then there's a small community that starts solving problems in the same manner, which we have come to realize here in Barcelona. It has made a big impact, because all the our clients that hire us here in the different studios in Barcelona, the architectural studios, they have come to realize that there is like some kind of order in the architects community. There are some times that you have to respect, and there are some requests that no one will do them anymore. So it's not like they start seeing us as an industry, as a proper industry, and not as just a freelance that works who knows when and has a big 3D button in his computer that makes 3D with one button. So, and by talking in the D2 conferences last years, we have seen that a lot of people from different countries and even from different cities of Spain, they find this like amazing, because they don't have that in their cities, and they find themselves like always kind of alone when talking about these things, because there's no one willing to share their expertise. And in our case, it has only been beneficial. In our very specific case, thanks to knowing all the studios, we have come to work with most of them. We share the work. If I receive a call from a client that needs something and I cannot do it, I don't tell, no, I can't. No, but there's this other studio that can do it.
Or we can produce a lot of information for a big competition. Like,
sure.
I don't know, 40 matches with some 4 minutes from video. That one only team, you cannot afford this kind of produce that.
The more that we have worked with other studios, the cleaner workflow we have. So we know if you're going to model for the images, but I have to do the animation afterwards, why don't you model this way, which is going to be easier for me to animate and will avoid more issues? Yeah, sure, don't worry. For them it's the same, but for us it's not. So by talking, we have also, what Ivan says, we have managed to produce in a shorter time frame a bigger amount of images and animations for a specific presentation, working with 3 different studios at the same time. Yes, that's something that needs to be promoted elsewhere in different cities and countries. We strongly recommend it, and the idea would be that ABBA can help other cities to build this.
Yeah, to make the way to know each other, to know the teams. For example, one of the last year, maybe we did about 10 projects with Playtime, for example, that it's a lot of work for us, even for the team, because they're a big team here in Barcelona, one of the biggest teams here, but they cannot produce all the things that the clients need. Then they call us and make a super production for this client, and the client was super happy with that. There's a lot of images and video, and I don't know, a lot of things. It's super good idea to know each other.
I have the thing, and it's understandable that one studio that is struggling to get clients, it's kind of jealous of sharing a client with another studio. But really, in our personal experience, it has been completely the opposite. If I share a client with another studio, that studio will share another client with me. So, and it's not about sharing the clients, it's about producing together the work that it couldn't be produced in such small time frame, because we're not extremely big companies here in Barcelona. So it's a good way to work together.
You know, one of the issues is that those who struggle with getting clients, they cannot even imagine the abundance of work that the market has to offer. Now, the problem is that a lot of people, and I really don't say this by judging or like, you know, I don't have anything against those that are trying to start their own thing or that are trying to start their own freelance business. But a client that sees a one-man show or one-woman show trying to do their own things, they will always look at that person with different eyes as, you know, the way they would look at a big company. And this is one of the things that very often the small enterprises, they fail to understand. That it's not a question of like not being able to get the big client, but if the big client needs to spend the big money, they will go to somebody that says, look, your money is safe with us because we're a team of 10 people, 20 people, and we will take care of you. Now, is that unfair? Is that the right way? It doesn't matter, because that's a decision that the client will make at the end of the day, right? And so, you know, like, again, we need more conversations like this to make people realize that there is work. It's just that you have to go and do maybe the things that you don't want to do. Like, you know, one of the ideas that small companies have when they start out is, I'm going to be free. I'm going to have my own independence. You know, work doesn't mean that you can be free. You know, work means that you have to work. And so sometimes, I don't know, I think that it's also a little bit the problem of social media, that social media tend to sell this idea of success as being free and as being, you know, like totally independent. But the reality is that if you want to do good work, you will still sometimes have to work 15 hours a day, and you'll have to put up a smile on your face because, you know, that's how you serve a client. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sure. Yes.
Guys, let me ask you, now we're gonna abstract a little bit our conversation a little bit. Do you ever think about the idea of purpose? And more into the specific, do you think about your purpose as people, as artists, as business owners?
Well, I don't. As a personal thought, it's a easy way to live. For example, I love a lot to come to the studio and spend time with my team, but at the end are the same as my friends. Then we love to make architecture, we love to make images. As a professional or as a goal, I love to make him better, not to make him to make me rich. Well, I know I love the money as every people, but this is not my goal. My goal is to make me happy and spend time here with my friends, listen to music, and put some, I don't know, another goal to learn another software to make you a better image, to make big animations, for example, or maybe to make some buildings for architecture also. Why not?
Yeah, but I think that like the main component related to the work purpose, I think, is to stop 1 second. And it's easy to say it, but it's harder to actually make it in the kind of industry that we work, and also in the position where you are running a company. I think purpose comes when you stop 1 second and you question yourself if what you are doing is what you want to do, and if you are doing it the way you would like to do. And the most, I suppose, natural thing is that there's not a fixed answer. It's an answer that changes through time based on your experience. But what doesn't change is the necessity to stop at some point, look back, and think forward. So I think that's the if I had ever thought about this word purpose, would be something related to this concept of stopping, thinking, and projecting, stopping, looking back, and rethinking. Should be a mix of that.
Let me ask you one more thing, and then we're gonna stop because it's been more than 1 hour already that we've been talking.
Sorry.
No, I'm very happy, but like, I don't want people to die listening to us.
Yeah, exactly. That's completely understandable.
What does success look to you?
It's in my very personal position. I think it's something very similar to what I was just saying. It's something that you can only evaluate retrospectively. So at some point you arrive at some point, it can be at any point actually, but by looking backwards and knowing that what you have done has satisfied you personally, professionally, and most importantly, in my case, with the people I've done this path with, I've either encouraged them or I have not done any harm to anyone that actually worked with me in this path. That would be the image of success, my very own personal one.
And for me, it's like have time to stay calm, to stay with your family, to stay with your friends, to spend time making the things you love. Like if you love to go ride a bicycle, go there, have time to do that. Not stay making another, project until all the weekend, until 12 in the morning. You have time to spend time with the people you love it. I think it's a good meaning for success.
Guys, thanks a lot for taking the time. I really appreciate it. Where is it that people can come and find you in case they want to get in touch with you?
The easiest way would be via email in our website in the contact section. You would find the
I'm gonna put the links in the description.
Yeah. So that's the easiest way. We actually try very hard to answer as fast as we can emails, not only from clients, but specifically for everyone who writes. I know that it's not possible to do it every time, but I think it's important to.
Or white pigeons, maybe. White pigeons is...
Yeah, also that's a good way to communicate with us.
Very sustainable. Guys, thanks a lot for doing this. I'm going to stop the recording. Don't go anywhere so that I can say thank you one more time, okay?
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.